Magnesium, because those are the only supplements I use is iron and magnesium. Magnesium being Epsom salt, which is really good in the water for the fish. It helps their gills, their ick, their slime coat. Everything benefits from a slight salinity, as well as it's the best way to get magnesium to your plants. And of all the vitamins that come in these great fish foods that we offer, or that are available to us, they don't really put enough iron in them to support the plants, or magnesium, or potassium at that point, really. But the two that I actually add the most are iron and mag. And that gives us great plant growth, keeps everything nice and green, and doesn't harm the fish.
For the ebb and flow, what if you sprayed instead of flood the gravel tanks? Can you get more growing space per 1,000-gallon tank? Or
well, because you need the water to run through the gravel to have the filter that you need to keep the fish healthy. It's all about running the water through the gravel. That's where all the bacteria is, and that's where all the different nitrification and mineralization processes actually happen in the gravel. So it's not just a matter of taking fish poop water and putting it on the plants. In fact, at that point, you would actually be spraying high ammonia on the plants and not doing them any good, or filtering your water. You really need it to run through the gravel multiple times. It leaves the solids in the gravel, but as the water keeps recirculating through, and the oxygen and the water is exposed to both, you get the mineralization process that turns the high ammonia poop into the 21 trace minerals that are needed for plant growth. So the gravel is absolutely required. In fact, the folks who have used filtration and rafts exclusively are realizing that they're missing out on a huge part of their mineralization and available nutrients. In fact, every week as they clean their filter, they're actually washing and throwing away the majority of that nutrient source, if you will. And they're actually now adding gravel, which would then hold on to everything, eliminates the need for any water waste, i.e. cleaning filters, because you literally don't clean the gravel. You add worms to your gravel beds, and they clean the poops for you, and now you wind up with a solid bed full of worm castings. We're going to take a look at that.
Oh, wow.
Show you what the gravel looks like with the help of the worms.
This is unreal.
I'll have to send you some video of where the water is clear. You know, the worms always hang out right
at
where,
the bottom. Well,
they hang out right where the poop comes in. Now, because it's cold, they're not hanging out up top right now. Well, let's find us a spot where, let's go this way. Try to find a spot where we can see them.
Oh, yeah.
And so, if you'll notice, all of this here, as thick as it is mostly worm castings. You'll see right here is a worm egg. That's a cocoon. There's one of them. And if you notice, it just smells like soil.
Wow. Yeah.
Worms are everywhere. Now again, when it's warmer, they're more near the surface. But for the record, this is about as dirty as the beds ever get. And honestly, that is not bad. The plants don't mind that. The water still flows. There's no anaerobic, and of course, if there was, you would smell it. It would smell like a swamp bottom, but it still smells like happy soil to me. No odor.
Clean.
The worms really do a great job. I can't say that I have them, Miss Riley, demonstrating what a nice, healthy worm looks like. I've been doing I had all my tomatoes the tomato plants I had were about 25, 26 months old, best we could remember. And they finally got they were like 20 or 30 foot long. They were way too big and unmanageable, and they got bugged out. So we hacked them all down, and these are some of the cuttings that we had left over. In fact, I can show you how the cuttings is real easy. You take a cutting, you drop it down here in your drain, and a week later you got roots shooting off of it. I can show you some of that over here.
You've propagated that way?
Absolutely. In fact, these are some of the first. I just did these a couple days ago. I'll show you the next ones that need to happen. But it definitely works and grows plants great. Here's a sample of, again, you just throw them in there, and they shoot roots like crazy. And this is actually in the drain. What I did over here
Love it.
was I just made 2 little propagation tubes. This is a bigger drain, and I like to use what's called a perforated standpipe so that you have an emergency overflow. The standard timer to a restricted flow normally would have a cap on the end with 3 holes drilled in there. All it takes is 1 piece of gravel, a piece of algae, or some a leaf, and that blocks. By doing the perforated standpipe, it gives you the same restricted flow, but if something happens, it still gives you the safety of overflowing through the top. That's a trial and error thing that I've learned the hard way. This is what you need to do. But what I did here was I just put these 2 tubes in there just so I could stick cuttings in. Those serve no purpose other than this. But it does great. So for cuttings, and of course tomatoes will root. Given half a chance, tomatoes will root.
Where do you get this plastic cover?
Most of that is going to be available at your pond supply places, and that's usually the only place I can find it. He's trying. Look at that. That's about the poorest you could. I don't even think that was a cutting. I think that was just a piece we picked up off the floor. But he's definitely going to root. So they don't look pretty today, but they'll be tomato plants in a month.
This is going to fill up more, so that's going to get submerged?
Right. These will actually, everything in here will ebb and flow, and so all this is doing is getting water to it about every 20 minutes, and then it's just exposed to air. Air being the most important part of rooting. That's how most people will mess up their cuttings, is they won't give them enough air. And they don't need a whole lot of water. So, in fact, the less water they get, the more roots they grow trying to find water. So the goal is to starve them of water, but keep them moist. This little setup, or that, does a great job at that. But you see how this allows it to drop down into that bottom inch or so? Mm-hmm. You'll notice in here I actually have them raised up. I'm using just this little 3-inch net pot. That actually keeps them off of the bottom so they don't get saturated. That'll make the bottom rot. But real simple way to just make multiple cuttings out of just about anything I've ever grown in there. I got a goji berry plant over there that if I could make the 300 cuttings that it looks like it's capable of making, I could probably, sell that plant for $4,000 bucks. But it doesn't like to root. It doesn't do cuttings as well as tomatoes. So.
Do you do cuttings on the kale?
No, those were all grown from seed. And the beautiful thing about the kales, they just keep on growing. Now they're like most plants. If you keep harvesting them, they won't bolt. If I don't hurry up and start harvesting these, I need to just get them out of here. In fact, take all the kale you think you could ever stand to eat. You're welcome to it.
Can I pick some?
Absolutely. Let me grab you a bag and a bundle and a bunch. In fact, I need to get some. I need to harvest some strategically to get it out of the walkways and out from over my drains. And so at $3 a bunch, that would be a $9 plant. We've got a bunch of $9 bills that need to go somewhere.